It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. You are live with Expresso. Thank you so much for keeping it locked in. Now, World Kidney Day is a global health awareness campaign focusing on the importance of the kidneys and reducing the frequency and impact of kidney disease and its associated health problems worldwide. And this morning we are joined by nephrologist Professor Nicola Warren to share her extensive knowledge with us, as well as the importance of looking after our kidney health. A very, very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. Is this the most important day of the year for you?
Well, I must say, for a nephrologist, this is the the highlight of our year, to try to engage with the people, to actually explain to them the importance of kidney health. So I'm really grateful to be here to be able to do that today, Graham. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure, and hopefully we'll reach as many people as we can, especially those that are ultimately most affected by this. But let's start with the kidney in itself and what its function is. How does it tie into the bigger system?
Okay, so the kidney has multiple functions, and its most important function is to remove waste from the body. So, all the toxins that we build up is eliminated by the kidneys. We also find that the kidney removes excess fluid. It's important for electrolyte balance, for acid base, but it also has some particularly important functions in that it produces hormones that actually regulate red blood cells, which are important for oxygenation throughout the body. It also improves it actually is responsible for the hormone that converts vitamin D to its active form. So it's really good with bone health. So actually, for us as nephrologists, this kidney is like a very important...
He's a multitasker. She's a multitasker. I'm going to call her a she because she's doing so much.
She's multitasking.
I'm playing a vital role in every one of those ways. It begs the question then, what would cause a kidney to stop functioning properly?
Okay, so kidneys function, the kidney failure or end-stage kidney disease, the main causes pretty much globally is diabetes that's not well controlled, hypertension also when it's poorly controlled, but also there's some other subtle things like HIV, for example, predisposes you to kidney disease. Also, a very frightening thing for us is a glomerulonephritis, which is an inflammation in the kidney. And unfortunately, we often don't see the results of end-stage kidney disease until it's actually at the end. So they're the ones we kind of want to sort of capture as well. Kidney stones can lead to end-stage renal disease, and there's a whole variety of genetic as well as other obstructive causes. So, yeah, we deal with a lot of different causes.
And I suppose because, when you talk about the extremity of where you can go with that, you're obviously wanting people to identify these things, hence why today is so important to be preemptive if we can. Talk to me about the difference between a kidney infection. Is there a scale? Is it all or nothing? Either chronic disease, or can we get a kidney infection? How does that relate to a bladder infection in terms of the health of that system?
So kidney infections are very common. I will just say that for a start. And it usually starts by getting a bladder infection that actually ascends into the kidneys, and then we get what we call a pyelonephritis, or an infection in the kidney. Now, most of the time we can actually treat that very efficiently. We might get a little bit of acute kidney injury or acute kidney failure, but actually most of the time if we identify that early, that is treatable.
And how does it exhibit?
So when someone gets an acute, when they get an infection, generally one gets the symptoms of increased frequency of urination, burning on urination, and then if it ascends into your kidneys, they can get pain in their flanks. Now, most of the time, as I said, that actually we can treat that. So that is a very, we can reverse that. But I must say diabetics who are also prone to chronic kidney disease are actually quite at risk of these infections, and also women, because of the proximity of where the bugs come from, which is from the back to the front.
Sure.
Women are more at risk. So, there are, infections are one of the lesser forms of end-stage kidney disease and the more treatable forms.
Is there a way we can do a self-check for our kidney health? Is there a way that we can kind of monitor our system or prod in an area? How do we look after our kidney,
Okay.
essentially?
I think that the reason why World Kidney Day is so important is that most causes or most people present with end-stage kidney disease without actually knowing they had it. And for nephrologists, we call it the silent killer because many people present when they've already lost 80% of their kidney function and they didn't even know. So really what we really want to emphasize is that it's really, really important to get screened for diabetes, to make sure your blood pressure is well controlled. If you've got HIV, make sure that you're looking after someone's checking your renal function. And actually, if you've got stones, make sure that people are checking your kidney function. And every once in a while, actually for part of your general health, having your renal function checked is actually a very important thing. Even renal function through the blood, but also dipsticking the urine and making sure there's no abnormalities there. So for us, it's about preventative before you even know you have it. And then once we have established that you might have early renal failure, then we need to make sure that all of the risk factors are actually dealt with appropriately.
And we'll get into exactly how we go about that. I'm dying to know what dialysis is and how it works and pertains to the kidneys. It is World Kidney Day today, and we are hopefully going to educate you and help you, at least as many people as we can, preempt having any serious issues in that space.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Well, after that stunning performance, hopefully you've come back down to earth from the heavens and you're ready to get back into our medical chat this morning. And we've got the pleasure of having nephrologist Professor Nicola Wern with us this morning as we discuss World Kidney Day that was celebrated or commemorated last week. And we hone in on the vitally important role that the kidneys play in our bodies. Prof, I know you've touched on bladder infection being a root cause. What are some of the other reasons, maybe lifestyle influences, things that can lead to ill health and infections within our kidneys?
Okay, so the main ones actually are the control of diabetes. Really, it is the #1 killer.
Diabetes has put its hand up over the last 3 years,
It has, and unfortunately we are rising. It's a rising pandemic in its own right, and really we are, nephrologists really deal with a lot of diabetic kidney disease. So we really have to make sure that we identify if we have diabetes, that if we do have diabetes, that we make sure it's very well managed. So diabetes is really the #1. #2 is high blood pressure, another disease of lifestyle.
The human condition, I'll call it.
The human condition. We have to make sure that we regularly get our blood pressures checked and that we keep our blood pressures to target. There's also, we're not doing that enough, and diabetes and hypertension are overwhelming the end-stage kidney disease that we're dealing with. There's also other, unfortunately, it extends further than that, and we need to, there are genetic causes and something called autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease, which is a bit of a mouthful.
Just rolls off the tongue.
But it actually, it actually isn't that uncommon, and it does run in families. So people who have got it actually need to ensure that they are well managed. There are inflammation in the kidney rather than infection that actually often goes unnoticed, and we have to be very aware when we screen for kidney disease that we are checking for proteinuria and blood in our kidneys. So they are some of the main causes of kidney disease.
I suppose with it being a gateway and connecting so many different systems, you can understand why it's such a vital, or plays such a vital role. I'm just waiting for you to say, like, eat beetroot every day and you'll be fine. That's what I want to hear this morning.
I could say for the nephrologist, we would actually say that salt is like a toxin, and that's what I tell everyone. So a diseased kidney does not handle salt well. So if you are a salt lover and you've got blood pressure issues or kidney issues, really, it is like a toxin. So I would say keep the salt away, but also, we used to say an apple a day keeps the doctor away, but actually the new apple is the banana, but not if you have renal failure, but it's actually meant to be good for blood pressure and potassium, and so
good for the mood as
I
well,
think general well health and stopping smoking, exercise, all of those things are good for kidneys.
We get to that advanced stage of kidney disease. How do we treat it?
Well, as a nephrologist, we really don't want to get there. So unfortunately, once your kidney gets down to less than 80% function, so we got 10% left, that's when we're looking at the forms of dialysis that are required. And actually call transplantation, dialysis is all part of renal replacement therapy. So we look at them all as one type of therapy to improve kidney failure. So there are different types of dialysis. There's hemodialysis, there's peritoneal dialysis, and then there's transplantation. And we hope that no one gets there, but if we do get there, then we have to start looking at dialysis as an option.
Right, we're going to explore a little bit more about what dialysis actually is, and I've got a burning question. Can you survive with one kidney? We'll find out in a moment.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for keeping it locked as we delve back into I Am Learning, is what is probably the most vital conversation I'm going to have at the moment. We are learning more about World Kidney Day, which was commemorated last week, and most importantly, the vital role that kidneys play in the healthy functioning of our bodies this morning. And of course, nephrologist Professor Nicola Wern has joined us this morning with some absolute gems. And we're building towards a bit of a aha light bulb moment for me here, because I always try and distill it down so that or dumb it down is probably a better word, so that I can understand it. But I want to ask, a question came through our social media platforms. We're talking about dialysis and then the next phase being a kidney transplant. If a person has had a kidney removed and they only have one kidney left and they have a transplant and that fails, what happens? Give us a picture of the system, the transplant system. Do they go back to the end of the queue on the waiting list? How does that work?
Okay, so there's two things we need to deal with here. But the first is, if you've had a transplant and then it's successful, and depending on how, well, the bottom line is yes, you can successfully transplant again. There are obviously some patients that are unable to get a transplant for a variety of different reasons. Either their health has deteriorated or actually the anatomy to put the kidney back in is a problem. But I would say a lot of patients who have had a transplant are able to have a second transplant. But actually what that means most of the time is spending a period back on dialysis. And the quickest way to get a transplant is to actually have someone to actually donate it to you, whether it's a family member or a friend, to actually come to us, and we try to facilitate the transplant. So yes, you can actually have a second transplant. In fact, we've even got patients who are now on a third. It becomes trickier, but it is possible.
We talk about dialysis as, it's absolutely vital. Is that something that you are constantly on if your kidney has reached that point when you talk about 80% failure? Is it something that you have to pop into the hospital once a day? How does dialysis actually work?
Okay, so, there are two types of dialysis. There's hemo in-center dialysis, where for most patients in South Africa will attend 3 times a week for 3 to 4 hours a session. So very, very consuming of their life and their ability to function in a normal way. 3 times a week, 3 to 4 hours is a huge part of your life that is taken away. Alternatively, there is peritoneal dialysis, where you actually get dialysis through the peritoneum of your abdomen. It sounds a bit weird, but I must say I'm a very big advocate for it, because it can be done at home, and you can do most of your dialysis is really done away from the hospital. So I personally, improvement in quality of life, being able to continue people working and living in a normal way as much as possible. So ideally, we all want people to have a transplant if they can get it, because that actually removes the need for dialysis. So that's what we strive for.
Pressure on the system itself, and massive impact, as you've highlighted, in a person's life. To round this off, it's starting to hit home for me. Not very often are we able to prevent a chronic disease, but in this instance, it seems that your lifestyle and those choices that you make are vital.
So I would say for the majority of people who have end-stage renal disease, actually there can be we can actually prevent it going to end stage. And as I said, lifestyle, blood pressure, preventing diabetes, making sure your weight is well controlled, because with increased weight comes your increased risk of diabetes. Blood pressure, as I said, is very important. Stopping smoking, because smoking is bad for vessels, and kidneys have, as you can probably understand, lots of vessels. And also for blood pressure, ensure that our cholesterol is checked, because that can also contribute to kidney disease. And really it's about healthy lifestyle and ensuring that we have preventative care. We make sure we check on our yearly checks for our renal function, that our blood pressure is well controlled, that we screen for diabetes. If we have HIV, then we regularly screen for renal disease in that. And if there's a family member who has a chronic kidney disease, that we pay particular attention to them. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prof. This has been an eye-opener. Hopefully you've been able to distill this down into how it relates to your world, and ultimately it's about making slightly better choices with the way that you treat your body. Look after yourself.